Good afternoon, members. It is the appointed time and we have a quorum. I call to order the meeting. Item 1, items for discussion at the next meeting. List of outstanding items for discussion. With reference to our work plan, the Secretariat has compiled a list of outstanding items for discussion based on the discussion between the Chairman and Deputy Chairman as well as the government representative on the 29th of April. The Research Office of the Secretariat has also compiled research briefs on measures in preventing heat stroke at work as well as overexertion at work for the retail and catering industry. For members' discussion in November, please refer to the research brief. Items for discussion at the next meeting. The next meeting is scheduled tentatively in October to discuss the marine industrial safety and the occupational safety performance of other industries. The date and time will be notified. You'll be notified of the date and time soon by the Secretariat. Item 2, reviewing the occupational safety performance of the construction industry as well as the causes and prevention methods of serious industrial accidents. The government officials have already joined us. We welcome the government officials from the Development Bureau and the Labor Department, and also the representatives from the Construction Industry Council, CIC. The Secretariat has received 4 submissions concerning the discussion. 3 have been sent to members in advance, and 1 has been just tabled. Members who would like to speak, you may now press the Request to Speak button. I will first invite the Under-Secretary for Labour and Welfare to brief us on the paper. Thank you, Chairman. The construction industry is an important foundation for Hong Kong's development. It is crucial for different sectors, from building of critical public works projects to housing, as well as office and commercial spaces. The construction industry plays a key role in our economy to ensure that the industry can continue to be productive and competitive. The government, public and private bodies, contractors, and employers, as well as employees, all have their different roles and responsibilities to continuously enhance the safety performance of the industry. So first of all, I will report on the safety performance of the construction industry. During the past year, between 2021 to 2025, over the past 5 years, the number of accidents in the construction industry has dropped from 3,109 to 2,425 by some 25%, and the accident per 1,000 workers rate has dropped by 28% to 8% to 21.3. Now, concerning fatal industrial accidents, over the past few years, there has been some 20 cases of fatal industrial accidents in the construction industry, showing that in the past several years, through the concerted efforts of the government and different sectors, the safety performance of the overall situation has improved. However, the per 1,000 workers accident rate in the construction industry is the highest among all industries. Now, the number of fatal cases starting from this year has reminded us that we have to keep working to keep the number down. Now, we attach much importance to the safety performance of the construction industry, and the Labour Department has been monitoring the changes in the industry to formulate strategies of inspection and enforcement, publicity and promotion, education and training, as well as I&T adoption through a risk-based approach to enhance the OSH level in the industry. We understand the public's concern on the safety performance of the construction industry, and it is expected that the government would bear the responsibility together with the sector. Besides establishing safety regulations, we have to ensure that the mechanism is implemented effectively. On that, we have been working closely with the industry to enhance monitoring as well as the safety awareness of employees to build a culture of safety. Now, the Development Bureau has also launched a series of measures to enhance the OSH level of the construction industry. For example, driving the industry to adopt the 4S system, that is, smart, safe site management system, as well as monitoring contracts. Now, I will now invite Mr. Terence Lam, Principal Assistant Secretary of the Development Bureau, to report the measures. The Development Bureau attaches much importance to public works project safety. Now, as the policy advocates of site safety, we have been working closely with the industry to encourage good practices through public works contracts to ensure that the enhancement measures are implemented. We also conduct regular review on the site safety management system of projects, from design of projects, approval and assessment of tenders, monitoring, supervision, as well as publicity with contractors. We have adopted a number of measures to enhance the safety level of sites. Now, through our effort, the overall safety performance of the construction industry has shown remarkable improvement compared with 30 years ago. The accident rate for our public works projects have dropped. Despite that, the Development Bureau has been continuously striving to enhance the measures. First of all, in terms of public works tender, we would award tender to those contractors on the approved list. Now, through the approved list and the monitoring system, we can ensure that the contractors are capable in terms of financial capability, professional knowledge, project management, and site safety. They have to meet certain standards in these respects. In approving tenders for public works contract, we are not taking the lowest bid wins approach. Under the current tender evaluation mechanism, besides considering the tender price, we would also assess the technical capability and past performance of the tenderer. Now, the tenderer's past performance and capability in ensuring site safety is also an important factor for consideration. Now, concerning our regulating actions, if there is a serious accident on a site managed by a contractor on the approved list, whether it is a public works project or a private site, if the Development Bureau has reasonable grounds to believe that the onus is on the contractor, even if the investigation of the Labor Department is ongoing, the Development Bureau will require the contractor to conduct an independent site audit, safety audit, and in a short period of time suspend the contractor concerned from tendering for the relevant category of public works contracts. More crucially, after lifting the suspension, the Development Bureau would convene a panel of inquiry to determine whether regulating action should be taken against the contractor, including suspension from tendering or even removal from the approved list. In terms of adopting technology, in February 2023, the Development Bureau has required public works contract exceeding $30 million to adopt the 4S system. We have also formulated regulations and parameters for 4S. We conduct timely review on the specifications according to the developments of the technology. Now, to encourage private contractors to adopt 4S, starting from 2024, we have launched a series of enhancement measures to drive the adoption of 4S in private projects. Now, on the 31st of October last year, for tenders awarded after that date, we have added a provision to extend the long-established pay-for-safety scheme to subcontractors. Site safety-related works undertaken by subcontractors are listed as pre-priced payment items in the subcontracts to ensure that subcontractors are provided with adequate resources to devote to uplifting the site safety performance and enhancing the safety awareness of frontline workers. Now, concerning design for safety, we have come up with guidance notes of design for safety. Public works exceeding $500 million must adopt design for safety. That concludes my report. We will be pleased to answer members' questions and take members' views. Thank you. Thank you, government officials from the Labour Department and the Development Bureau. The floor is now open to members. The members are Mr. Chow Siu Chung, Deputy Chairman, Mr. Lam Chen Singh, Mr. Zhang Pui Kong, Lam Wai Kong, Ken Lee, Ms. Grace Chan, and myself. Mr. Chow Siu Chung, please. Thank you. In year 2026, in the first half of the year, just passed, there has been a large number of industrial accidents in the construction industry. According to my calculation, there has been 14 fatal industrial accidents already. It is not sure whether the Labour Department will classify all of them as industrial accidents, but so far the situation is dire. It is greatly saddening and worrying. I have several questions for the government to clarify. First of all, paragraphs 24 to 32 of the paper mention several key measures, one of which is design for safety. There's also the avoidance of awarding tender to the lowest bidder, and also setting a reasonable timetable for work projects to avoid contractors compressing the timetable. Now, these measures are very useful. I think in terms of public works projects, the situation is satisfactory. However, for private works projects, I think more could be done by the government. So in relation to design for safety, has the government considered legislating to make the adoption of design for safety mandatory for private works projects of a certain scale? Now, at present, the government is imposing regulatory requirements on private contractors through some legislation. There must be safe access for workers to conduct maintenance outside of the building, but that is not sufficient. So will the government consider extending the coverage of the law to private works projects? Of course, we can set the bar higher so that only private work sites of a certain scale will be covered. Now, as mentioned by the Development Bureau in paragraph 28, when evaluating a tender, if the contractor has a well-track record, they would receive additional score under the technical items. On the contrary, when there are serious safety incidents, marks would be deducted. So is the extent of points award or deduction a great enough incentive for the contractors? Now, starting from year 2011 or 2021, the government has been reviewing the reporting mechanism for construction sites. Now, this mechanism would only kicked in after a certain period of time. Now, for smaller projects with less than 10 employees and conducted over a shorter period of time, they are not required to report to the government. So can we extend the mechanism to these small-scale construction sites to enhance the supervision? Now, finally, many serious industrial accidents are in relation to lifting operations. There are often fatal accidents involving lifting operations. So in terms of inspection and enforcement strategy, will there be specific operations targeting lifting operations to avoid fatal accidents?
Thank you. We have just one agenda item and 7 members are lining up to speak. We have sufficient time, so I'm going to give 5 minutes to each member. Questions and answers included. Thank you. Administration, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chow, for your questions. On behalf of the Labor Department, I'd like to speak on our measures for design for safety, and then I will give the floor to the Development Bureau to address other issues. Regarding the reporting mechanism and lifting operations, I'm going to give you more information in a moment. Regarding design for safety, the CIC and the government have done much work in this regard. As the Development Bureau said just now, for projects worth $500 million or above, it is mandatory for them to implement design for safety. In the past few years, the CIC has implemented different schemes to drive the private sector to implement design for safety. The CIC may give you more information in a moment. From the perspective of the Labor Department, we have the Construction Industry Safety Award Scheme, and together with the OSHC, we have implemented one more award scheme. We have been driving the industry to implement the concept of design for safety. Going forward, we'll continue with this direction to drive the adoption of the concept of design for safety in the construction sites in Hong Kong. Regarding the reporting mechanism mentioned by Mr. Chow, at present, focusing high-risk minor works, that is mainly truss-out bamboo scaffolds, we have implemented a voluntary reporting mechanism with the property management sector. The Hong Kong Association of Property Management Companies has been helping us with this work. It has been added to the COPs before the conduct of TOS, that is truss-out bamboo scaffolds. Surprise checks will be conducted. With regard to lifting operations, it's come to our attention that in this year, there have been quite a lot of accidents about this. The Labor Department has issued a code of practice targeting tower cranes. We are updating this relevant COP. We will see what lessons we have learned in the past few years. Afterwards, we will add more rules, instructions, and guidance to the COP in order to improve the works in relation to lifting operations. And recently, we have been taking law enforcement actions targeting lifting operations. Whether for contractors, employees, we check whether employees follow the guidelines to the letter. And then I'm going to give the floor to the Development Bureau to speak on their work. As the chairman said, we can explain our measures at greater length. 20 years ago, in 2006, we published Design for Safety Guidance. We request that public works projects need to take into account different risks from the planning stage to the construction stage. Guidelines and instructions have been added to the COP. Risks need to be minimized. And 10 years ago, in 2016, we updated this COP and the guidelines. We delineated more clearly the responsibilities of these stakeholders in different phases. As I said, for public projects over $500 million need to use design for safety. At present, over 200 projects have been using design for safety. The accident rate has seen an obvious decrease, so we believe that the design for safety is very effective. Just now, the Labor Department already said that the CIC has done a lot of work in the promotion of design for safety, so I'd like to give the floor to the CIC, Mr. Kenton, to share more with members. Just now, Mr. Cha also referred to the lowest bidder wins. I will ask Mr. David Lam, Principal Assistant Secretary, to give you more information. Well, we have sufficient time, but you might have to compress the time in which you are going to explain. Thank you. Mr. Kenton, thank you. We'd like to share with you what the CIC has done. In 2022, we published the reference materials for Design for Safety, which detailed stakeholder responsibilities, main design considerations, as well as a risk management framework. In September 2024, we implemented the Design for Safety pilot scheme. There were two phases. In the first phase, in 2024, 10 projects were identified, and in 2025, another 10 projects were identified afterwards. We wanted to check the performance of private and public projects in relation to design for safety. In April 2026, we launched the Design for Safety platform. As of today, a total of 44 projects are involved. We share with the industry in relation to how we can implement the concept of design for safety. We share the templates with the industry. In parallel, we are also providing professional training courses so the professionals will have a better grasp of the concept of design for safety. This is what we have been doing recently. Overall, we are still at the promotion stage. We need to build consensus and cohesion. We need to provide a training environment for professionals. We want to make it a market convention to use the concept of design for safety. This is how we can continuously promote this concept. Thank you. Next member, Mr. Lam Chen Sing. Thank you, Chairman. Over the past few years, the Labor Department and the Development Bureau have been doing quite a lot in relation to occupational safety and health. They conduct inspections. They also use technologies to enhance the level of penalty. However, after the implementation of these measures in the past few years, have you reviewed these measures? A couple of years ago, we enhanced the level of penalty to a maximum of $10 million. I believe this has sufficient deterrence effect. However, for indictable offenses and very serious cases, these cases might be few and far between, might be 1 to 2 cases. Some cases are still pending decision and penalty. We don't know the deterrence level yet. For these very severe indictable offenses, are the thresholds too high? Do we need to review these aspects? Whenever an industrial accident happens, the Labor Department collects evidence and initiates prosecution. The time bar is 9 months. Regarding very serious industrial accidents or when the construction site has a very large area, does the Labor Department have sufficient manpower to collect evidence? Do they have enough time? When there's a lack of evidence, when such is furnished to the court, will that undermine the quality of prosecution, or will it negatively impact on the final result of the case? Is 9 months sufficient? Do we need to prolong the period to say 1 year? This has been implemented for a period of time, so I'd like to hear about the prosecution work on the part of the Labor Department. Next, I'd like to turn to technologies. For public works of $30 million or so, or for construction sites using tower crane, they are already implementing 4S system. On top of these large-scale construction sites, have you considered extending the use of 4S system to small to medium-sized construction sites? Or at least you need to make it clear in the guidelines that small to medium construction sites need to employ such technologies such as sensors, cameras, or in confined spaces there need to be small unmanned vehicles. Do we need to have a timeline regarding the promotion of technologies in small to medium-sized construction sites? While I understand it is not probably possible to make all small to medium-sized construction sites use such technologies, we do need to promote their use in all construction sites in Hong Kong. Thank you. Administration, Mr. Wen, thank you. I'd like to speak on the level of penalty first, and then I will ask Mr. Murphy Yun from the operations division to reply. Regarding technologies, I will give the floor to the Development Bureau. Thank you. In 2023, there was a miscellaneous amendment which enhanced the level of penalty in relation to OSH. In the amendment bill, we also added one indictable offense. The purpose was actually very clear. The indictable offense only targeted very severe incidents. Only then will we invoke such an ordinance. From April 2023 to now, there have been 2 serious accidents. We initiated prosecution using this indictable offense to pursue prosecution. These 2 cases are still being heard by the courts. They share one common factor. That is, they involve other, even more serious offenses. More serious offenses need to be dealt with by the court before we can continue to bring the OSH offenses to the courts for handling. We do hope that these cases will be brought to the court as soon as possible so that the court could mete out a penalty that is sufficiently deterrent. Regarding the use of technologies, I'd like to give you more information. As Mr. Lam said, the Labor Department has been updating different codes of practice. We do check whether there are new technologies in the market that would enhance the safety of construction works. If available, we will add these requirements to the COPs, and we'll continue with our work in this regard. I'd like to ask Mr. Murphy Yuen to talk about the prosecution time bar of 9 months. Thank you.
Thank you. As the Assistant Commissioner has said, in 2023, we have passed a regulation on enhancing the penalty level. Now, for very serious offences, they would be prosecuted under indictable offences, and there would be no time bar for that. Now, for those prosecuted under the Summary Offences Ordinance, the prosecution time bar of 6 months has been extended to 9 months. However, the ordinance itself has not undergone major amendment. In other words, according to our past experience, 9 months is sufficient for investigation and prosecution. Now, will the time bar affect the investigation process as well as the court's judgment? Now, we have been monitoring the judgment rendered by courts. For cases with underwhelming penalty level, which has deviated from the legislative intent of the 2023 amendments regulation, we would ask the DOJ to initiate appeal and review. Thank you. And concerning adoption of innovative technology in small-scale projects like RMA, repair and maintenance works. Now, after adopting 4S in major public works projects, we will also encourage the use of 4S system in RMA projects. Now, the Construction Industry Council has formulated 4S packages on their website for even small-scale projects to choose the components of 4S that is suitable for them. The CITF also supports SMEs to adopt technological products. The cap is $7.5 million for each company. That's a great incentive to encourage SME to adopt INT. Next, Mr. Chan Pui Kong. Thank you, Chairman. I thank the Development Bureau and the Labor Department for their efforts in enhancing the OSH level in the construction industry. Now, these are my views. Now, concerning design for safety, these are just guidelines. So I hope the government would mandate the adoption of design for safety through legislation. This will ensure that construction projects consider the elements of safety right from the start, from the design stage. This will effectively reduce the occurrence of industrial accidents. Now, on and off, we would hear tragedies of construction site workers suddenly die on construction sites. So I think the government should specify groups of construction site workers who must undergo health checkups regularly. For example, construction site workers above the age of 60. Once potential health risks are identified, it would be less likely for sudden deaths to occur on construction sites. Now, concerning 4S, I share the views of Mr. Lam Chen Sing. We should enhance the efforts in encouraging small to medium-scale construction sites to adopt 4S. We should encourage the use of AI-assisted alert warning system and also AI and sensors enhanced safety helmets and so on. We need more construction sites to use these technologies. These are my suggestions. So you raised 3 points. I think there is another standalone item for sudden deaths on construction sites. So concerning 4S, may I invite a reply from the government? Thank you, Mr. Cheung. Concerning design for safety, both the government and the CIC have launched a pilot scheme to encourage the private market or private project developers to adopt design for safety to build a culture for safety on private construction sites. We will pay close attention to the receptiveness of the industry concerning the scheme. Concerning 4S, I would defer to the Development Bureau. May I take this opportunity to explain the categories of components under 4S? Now, we have 10 devices covered under the scheme. Now, in the next 2 weeks, 3 more devices will be included. 2 devices are very suitable for small projects. For example, mobile lifting platforms or mobile lifts. Now, in the past few years, there have been some accidents involving mobile lifting platforms. So we have identified some cost-effective device for the use of small sites. And also scaffolding technologies. We have identified device suitable for the use in small sites. In addition to the CITF, these are the schemes through which we are encouraging small sites to adopt technologies. Mr. Lam Wai Kwong. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for assigning this item so that we can discuss the safety performance of the construction industry. Now, a member mentioned that we should start from the tender evaluation process. Now, for public works projects, tenders with site safety components will receive extra points. So, for the way forward, for those bids without safety elements or resources dedicated to safety sites management, can we render these tenderers ineligible for the bid altogether? Now, for contractors with past industrial accident records, they would be viewed unfavorably in future contracts. But can we impose some immediate sanctions on contractors with industrial accidents through a fine? And also, can we consider reasonable timetable for works projects, a favorable item in tender evaluation? Now, during the works process, the Labor Departments would conduct inspection and enforcement on a risk-based approach. But there is, at present, a lack of a reporting mechanism. For smaller sites, in particular those with work above ground, The Labor Department's inspection and enforcement regime operations may not cover them in a timely manner. So that's why there have been some fatal industrial accidents involving work above ground in smaller sites. So can we establish a reporting mechanism for these sites? In terms of technologies, it seems that we are focusing on the workflow only. But what about using big data technology to analyze the overall work process? Before and after the project. So can we adopt big data technologies and AI to come up with enhancement measures? Now finally, as mentioned by Mr. Chen Pui-kong and Zhao Xiuchong, since we are pivoting in promoting the idea of design for safety concepts, starting 20 years ago, maybe it is an opportune time to review the effectiveness of our efforts. How many private contractors or private sites have adopted the elements of design for safety? If the data is underwhelming, maybe we should consider legislating to make the adoption of design for safety mandatory. So 4 questions have been raised. Thank you. First of all, on the reporting mechanism, post-accident analysis, and other related questions. At present, concerning smaller scale projects, we rely on referrals from property management companies. Now it seems that the mechanism is very effective. In 2024, we have received some 5,000 referrals from the property management sector. In year 2025, we have partnered up with the Hong Kong Association of Property Managers, and we have received some 12,000 referrals last year. So we have gathered a lot of data already. Now on accident analysis, concerning fatal or serious industrial accidents, the Labor Department would conduct investigation in all of them. During the investigation, we would identify the insufficiencies in the system, which has led to those accidents, and then we would offer feedback to the employers so that they can improve the system and prevent accidents from occurring again. And also, we would publish our findings with the industry as a whole. For example, after serious industrial accidents, we would send safety alerts to the industry as a whole. Now, there is a new section under the safety alerts to remind the contractors and the employers of the necessary measures to be taken to avoid the accidents. So we would publish all our findings and observations in the safety alerts for the industry's benefits. And also we have statistics on the accidents for the year to alert the industry of the common accidents in the year. Concerning design for safety, the government supports the construction industry to adopt design for safety, so that the contractors understand the importance of risk management right from the start. Now, concerning the new guidelines and the provisions, we seek to implement all those guidelines and also provide more training concerning design for safety for the trade. What about tenders?
Regarding tendering, under the existing mechanism, we take into account the technical scores. If they do not meet the passing level, we won't consider their tenders. I'd like to take this opportunity to respond to the points mechanism. Within 1 year, if there is no serious industrial accident, 1 point will be awarded. For fatalities, if there are fatalities, 2 points will be docked. As a result, the likelihood of being awarded a contract or a tender will decrease by 20%. Thank you, Mr. Kenley. Serious industrial accidents account for about half of all accidents across Hong Kong. In June alone, there were 5 fatalities. As we heard from the administration, the 4S system has been implemented alongside different training courses. Have we reached a bottleneck? Can we conduct a review from different perspectives? Is it too late? Of course, we cannot resort to the lowest bidders win. We take into account cost, technical scores. We also have the mechanism of adding and docking scores. What other measures do we have? As for the COPs for working under inclement weather, are there any loopholes? About 20% to 30% of the accidents happened under inclement weather. As for safety officers, they are not carrying out construction site inspections as expected by the Labor Department. Are they simply rushing projects? Are they simply going through the motion? Are the reports simply cookie-cutter reports? I understand we have 70% of subsidies amounting to $7.5 million. What about for small to medium scale projects? Is it possible to rent these technologies or equipment free of charge? If possible, then there will be improvements to monitoring. Regarding serious accidents involving towering operations or lifting operations rather, some operators do not have valid licenses or certificates. Close to 20% of the accidents involve operators without licenses, and even 30% of the workers involve illegal workers. I returned from Hebei just yesterday. I saw a lot of new construction safety tools and equipment. They are worth our consideration. After all, human lives matter. We look forward to ongoing dialogues with the administration together with the frontline workers in the industry. Thank you. Management of the sites, subsidies to use technologies as well as illegal workers. Thank you, administration. Thank you, Mr. Kenley, for your questions. I'd like to take the questions in relation to the Labor Department first, and I will ask my colleagues to take other questions. We, the Labor Department, have issued a code of practice. We give advice as to what measures employers need to implement regarding inclement weather. We remind employers and employees alike that they need to come to an agreement regarding work arrangements under inclement weather. And the guiding principle is that under inclement weather, unnecessary projects need to be suspended. If, however, there are special operations and projects that must be carried out under inclement weather, the employers need to carry out risk assessments. Targeted measures need to be rolled out in order to ensure the safety of employees. This has been set out in the code of practice for the industry to comply with. In relation to lifting operations, As we mentioned, we are updating the COP. When it comes to the qualifications of workers on construction sites, for signalers or riggers, they will have to complete certain training programs before they can carry out certain procedures. Afterwards, we will be able to improve the level of safety for hoisting and lifting operations. In relation to illegal workers, employers or employees can make good use of the existing avenue to report such matters to the relevant departments. They can make referrals so that we can follow up on these matters as soon as possible. Thank you. Well, Chairman, I'd like to speak on technologies as well. There is good news. In 2026, the government injected an additional $1 billion into the CITF, and the CIC injected an additional $400 million. That is totaling $1.4 billion. I'm glad to share with you this piece of news. We will actively explore the use of a wider range of devices, equipment to ensure the safety of the industry. Thank you. What about safety management officers? Under the existing OSH legislation, we do have requirements in relation to safety officers in construction sites. Subject to the size of the construction site, if there are 100 employees in a construction site, then there must be a safety officer. As for smaller scale construction sites, say those involving only 20 employees or so, then safety supervisors need to be stationed in the construction sites. They make suggestions and recommendations to the contractors or employers. These pieces of advice revolve around construction site safety. Regarding routine inspections, we check whether safety officers or safety supervisors have carried out the relevant work. Anything else to add? Thank you. Regarding safety officers, for public works projects involving 50 to 200, there is at least 700 to 1,203, above 1,204. So you can see that we have done quite a lot of work in relation to construction site safety. Next, Ms. Grace Chan. Thank you. The investigation into fatalities should be completed within 3 months, and the reports need to be made public in order to prevent similar accidents from happening again. What is the existing mechanism? Why don't we make it mandatory to make public the reports? The Federation of Hong Kong Electrical and Mechanical Industries trade unions only provide information in relation to registered safety officers. However, there is no public information in relation to safety managers or safety supervisors. So how can we make sure that there are sufficient manpower in the industry? The Federation also suggested that occupational safety and health should be incorporated into secondary school curricula. Will this be considered? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Grace Chan, for your questions. I'd like to take the first two questions, and then I'd like to ask my colleague, Chief Occupational Safety Officer, to take the third one. Thank you. Regarding making public the reports, under the existing OSH legislation, it is clearly stipulated that unless the Labor Department has a lawful permission to do so, otherwise We cannot disclose information such as that in relation to the work procedures to any third party. Such statutory rights include court orders or the need to abide by other ordinances. In other words, there is clear stipulation that only under specific circumstances can we publish or make public the relevant information. Under the principle of common law, regarding investigations into accidents, we need to meet with the management of companies or even construction site workers. In the course of taking statements from these workers according to the principle of common law, the information we obtain from these workers will only go towards investigations. Such could not be disclosed to any third parties. Therefore, under this legal framework, in general, the Labor Department does not make public such investigation reports. However, you can rest assured that despite the fact that we cannot make public the entirety of the report, through different avenues, we publish the causes of different accidents, such as occupational safety alerts, and so on. In seminars, we also share with the industry the common causes of accidents. In other words, we have a wide range of different methods to allow the industry to learn lessons. Regarding the number of safety supervisors, at present, the relevant legislation does not require safety supervisors to be registered. This is different from a safety officer. Any safety supervisors who have relevant qualifications could be assigned to take up this post, that is, a safety supervisor. This is why we do not have a tally of the number of safety supervisors. Thank you. I'd like to ask Mr. Ng to speak on the third question. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Grace Chan, for your questions. The Labor Department has been conducting different work, including training programs. We work with different professional bodies, government departments, as well as the Occupational Health and Safety Council to mount publicity programs. For instance, we organize seminars, certification programs. We maintain a close dialogue with different organizations around the world. As I mentioned, we partner up with the OSHC, Occupational Health and Safety Council. There have been publicity programs and training programs that we have been conducting. We have done a lot of work. There could be much work in this regard alongside promotional and training programs. We also hold different competitions. There are different subsidy schemes as well. Let me give you one example. Targeting schools. We organize different events to promote our work. In 2026, just last month, on the 2nd and 3rd of June, we finished the second OSH INT Expo. We invited primary schools, secondary schools, and post-secondary schools or institutions to take part in these events. Through different competitions, we try to promote the culture of occupational safety and health to students. In October 2026, we're going to organize an award scheme in relation to occupational or construction safety. We work with different organizations in order to improve occupational safety and health? Thank you.
I'm the last member to speak. According to the figures in the past few years, the construction industry's accident rate per 1,000 workers has declined. However, there has been a lot of fatal accidents. In the first half of the year, we already had 13 cases of fatal industrial accidents. Now, like the chief executive said, we need to be results-oriented. According to the LegCo's research brief last year, Hong Kong's fatal accident rate per 10,000 workers in the construction industry is 17.8, while that for Singapore is just 3.4. So under the results-oriented approach, can we set a KPI concerning the accident rate or fatal accident rate per 10,000 workers for the construction industry to show that we are determined to turn the situation around? Now, the works departments have done a lot to improve OSH level. For example, legislating for the use of 4S and also enhancing the tender evaluation system. A lot of financial resources have been deployed. However, the number of serious industrial accidents still remains high for the construction industry. What is the crux of the problem? Finally, the industry's consensus is that the crux of the issue is subcontracting. The subcontractors would be held to a tight timetable. That's what led to more accidents. Now, if we can pay workers on a monthly basis, not only can we improve the situation of safety performance, we can also avoid arrears of payment. So will the government require subcontractors to employ workers on a monthly wage basis? Now, with a more stable employment relationship, maybe we can reduce the number of serious industrial accidents. Can we start with public works projects and employ workers on a monthly basis rather than subcontracting the work? Thank you, Chairman, for your questions. I will take the first two questions, and my colleague will take the question on subcontracting. Concerning KPI, the government has set a KPI for the construction industry. The KPI is to reduce the accident rate per 1,000 workers for the past 5 years. To 26.8 next year. That is a 10% decrease in 5 years' time. Now, I think it is more appropriate to use accident rates per 1,000 workers as a basis, because that comes with a wider coverage compared with fatal accident rates per 10,000 workers. It can more effectively reflect the safety performance of the construction industry. I think we share the same view that we don't want to have even one fatal accident. So setting a KPI for fatal accidents would give the wrong optics that the government and the industry allows a certain percentage of fatal accident in the industry. So that's not very appropriate. So it would be better to use accident rates per 1,000 workers as the basis of our KPI. Second, common issues identified in recent accidents. Now, for the accidents in the first half of the year, they boil down to coordination. Works which should not have taken place simultaneously were performed at the same time. The second common issue is insufficient supervision. So these are the common issues we have identified during our inspection and enforcement operations. Concerning subcontracting, may I defer to my colleague? Chairman, concerning monthly payments for workers, we have a free labor market, so the employment terms for specific industries would be agreed upon by employers and employees freely. And also within the construction industry, there are some work types where employees would be employed for a very short period of time, so monthly payment may not be suitable for those jobs. At the same time, our works departments have chosen some contracts to pay employees on a monthly basis. For example, maintenance and repair contracts. For these contracts, which are more regular, we have required our contractors to employ their employees on a monthly basis. So we will take tally of these experience and share them with with the industry. So we have restricted the approach of subcontracting to fewer than 2 tiers. So no more than 2 subcontracting is allowed for a project. And also this contractor has to monitor the supervision performance of the subcontractor, and also the shifts and deployment of workers have to be submitted for us for approval. So we are promoting this practice through the CIC to the private sector as well. One more member would like to speak, Mr. Lam Chen Singh. Thank you, Chairman. Since we still have time, I would like to clarify one point as well. The paper says that starting from last year, the Labor Department has been deploying small unmanned aircraft to conduct inspection or even enforcement. I remember several months ago, the government said that drones have been deployed on some 40 occasions, and some improvement notice and suspension of works notices have been issued. So can I have an update on those numbers? And does the department think the use of drone is effective? If so, can the government train up more Labor Department officers to use drone on a wider basis to enhance the deterrent effect? That can also help save manpower for the Labor Department. I believe that it is very difficult for the Labor Department to enlarge its establishment for inspection, so maybe drones can help. And also, there is heat sensor technology in drones to detect smoking in construction sites. Now, it is very likely that the regulation will be passed next week. Now, as mentioned by Grace Chen, for construction sites with fewer than 20 workers, the employer can simply name any officer as a site safety manager or supervisor. There is no training or certification requirements. So can the Labor Department review the system of safety supervisor? I think the Labor Department should conduct some site visits to see whether the employers have given sufficient role to site safety supervisors. There's much that safety supervisors can do. For example, reminding construction workers to wear their safety lanyards or be more careful with their job. I think that's the legislative intent, because otherwise you will not require sites with more than 20 employees to appoint a qualified site supervisors. So how can you ensure that the employers are attaching sufficient importance to this system? Thank you. Now, in October last year, starting from October last year, we have already been deploying drones for inspection. Now, by way of figures, between January and May 2026, in the past 5 months, we have deployed drones to conduct inspection on 35 occasions. Now, during these 35 operations, we have successfully collected evidence to initiate 96 prosecutions, and also improvement notices and suspension of works notices have been issued. So generally speaking, the effectiveness of drones is apparent. So we will continue to deepen our efforts on using drones, in particular, enforcing the smoking ban. We have procured drones equipped with infrared system. So when the comprehensive smoking ban in construction sites has taken effect, we will deploy more drones to implement the rules. Now, concerning roles of safety supervisors, their job is mainly to ensure that the work process in construction sites is safe. Safety supervisors are required to compile safety reports for the site manager and the employer of the sites. Now, during our inspection, we will check whether the safety supervisors have fulfilled their duties according to the law. If there are breaches, we will enforce the law stringently. So we will continue with our efforts. That concludes our discussion. AOB, any other business? If there is no AOB, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.